welcome to the Arrowheads podcast, your official podcast of the PLL sanctioned supporter group, the Arrowheads, your one-stop shop for Utah Archers lacrosse. All right, welcome to, I guess, what is now the first episode of season 2 of the Arrowheads podcast, your official podcast of the official supporter group of the Archers. Super excited to have back with us Brett Dobson, what now is the only guy to ever be back-to-back championship MVPs. Brett, welcome back to the show.
Appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to be on here. Like I said earlier in my last podcast, it's the best fan group in the PLL, so I'm excited to be here and be on this podcast.
Love it. Grateful to have you on. And we introduced this guy right here to Brett earlier. This is my son Hudson, who's a 7th grade goalie and a huge Whipsnakes fan, has been, and he's on today to get converted over to the Archers and to be the biggest Dobson fan there is. So we've got about 30 minutes, Hudson, left of your fandom of the Whipsnakes. He's not convinced. We'll get him there.
That's all right.
All right, Brett. Wanted to talk to you about some just highlights of the season. So we have talked throughout the season as a podcast. Excuse me. And you guys start off really strong. And then it felt like things took a bit to gel. And it felt like one of those catalysts to get you guys on track was Haas coming back. Talk to us about that coming back and how that changed in the defense for you guys back there. What difference that made?
First of all, you can't replace a guy like Graham Hossack. He's one of the, well, I'm not going to say he's one of the best. He is the best defender in the world, in my opinion. He's the type of guy, and I'm not sure if you guys follow basketball that often. He's the type of guy who, in my opinion, I refer to, he can cover all 5 positions. He can cover a point guard, he can cover a center, he can cover every guy in between. And the reason I say that is because he gets the matchups, he gets the Sowers, the Josh Burns, the Jeff Teets, and the Asher Noltings of the world. And there's not many guys who can cover all those guys, and Brennan O'Neill, to say the least. There's not a guy who can cover all 5 of those players. And Haas is one of those guys that is such a workhorse and he's so good at what he does. It makes my job so much easier. And we didn't see too many of, Haas block shots as we did the year before. But, he hit the ball will hit him and it almost feels like he hurts the ball. The ball doesn't hurt him in a sense. And seeing that kind of gives me confidence to be like, all right, well, if he's putting his body in the line like that, I can go do that as well. But yeah, that was a big shift in energy when he kind of came back at the midpoint of the year. Although it was kind of weird though, that first game he came back, I think we gave up like 18 goals and we gave up the most twos in a game, and it was a weird game as a whole. But after that we got the ship sailing in the right direction, and I felt like that was a big part of it, and getting Haas back and having him around. And I think that it kind of let our defense down low, kind of stabilize ourselves and figure out who and what our identity was. And I felt like him being down there gave everybody else a huge confidence boost too.
Yeah. How did you see him really have an impact on like Woodward and something? You had rookies down there, some younger guys playing. How much confidence did he give them being back there?
Oh, a ton of confidence. I think for a guy like Mason Woodward, when you get to play beside a guy like Graham Hossack, you're able to take your game to another level. And I think that Warren and him have some chemistry from playing there from years before. And I think that for a guy like Bo, it's even more confidence knowing that we got a guy like that we don't have to slide to. So as a rookie, it makes your job easier. And I felt like as the season went on, you get more and more trust within the group, and you get opportunity to figure things out. And for us, we want to be able to peak at the right time, right? And I think for our team, a big turning point for that was our homecoming weekend. I might be jumping ahead here of moments throughout the season, but I felt like that was kind of one for our team that was huge, and I felt like it was awesome to be there and be a part of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
perfect
jump in.
segue.
Yeah, you nailed it. So we wanted to talk about that because obviously, what was it, 2 days ago, Utah Hockey Club had their opening night. And I was just thinking about our Archer weekend, our homecoming weekend. Last time you were on the podcast with us, you mentioned and you had made that invitation out to the fans like, hey, be loud, be ready for us because we're coming in and we're going to make a riot. Can you tell us, kind of walk us through, did we meet your expectations as fans? Did we exceed them? How did we do? And then on top of that, just kind of walk us through the whole experience as players, because I mean, you guys were the last weekend what is that like waiting for your guys' homecoming weekend and all of that? Sorry, I don't mean to give you so
No, it's
many
all good.
questions.
I think that first of all, you guys exceeded expectations. I we saw it across all the other fan bases. I felt like ours was the
Yeah,
most passionate and the loudest. I mean, I get chills even think about it right now to when Bo Pedersen scored that goal where the old house call pick six where he picked that pass off and went all the way down and scored and like
yeah, that was legit.
kid from Utah, that's got to be either up there with one of the coolest things to do. Like there's I don't know if you guys follow the NFL at all right now, but there's a guy by the name of Joe Andreessen playing for the Buffalo Bills right now who's from Buffalo. Um, anytime you get to live out your childhood dream of playing a professional sport representing, the city and the state that you grew up in, I think is really cool. So, for him to do that, it was awesome. And I felt like for us to be there as a team, it was really, really cool to see how passionate everybody was, and to see the lineup waiting for guys like a guy like Tom Schreiber out of Dick's Sporting Goods out the door to see lacrosse in the park, see where it's growing. And I think that you see kind of where the hockey club was with their fan base and how it kind of went in that first game. I think that's kind of similar to how ours was. And granted, it might not have been that many people compared to it, but I think that Utah's passionate about their sports teams, and I know that they take pride in being out there. And I think for us as a team, we took a lot of pride of representing the state of Utah. And when we got there, it was kind of like overwhelming in a sense where it's like, all right, like come on, like we're doing a banner raising ceremony. I feel like it's the whole season's gone by. You almost forget who the champion is, and then like you go into it, and it's like, all right, no, like this is more motivation to kind of want to go win another one. And I think that for us, like bringing a banner to that stadium next year is gonna be huge.
Yeah,
It's gonna get old. I felt like for us as a team, we felt really welcome there too, and I felt like the group really appreciated everything Utah had to do for us, and I certainly appreciated it. My girlfriend was able to come out there with me, and she loved it. She said it was beautiful. The venue's awesome, and the fans were tremendous. And I think that when you got a city like that that's backing you, and a fan base that we have, it makes your job a lot easier, and it's a lot easier to get motivated for games because you're doing it for more than just the people inside the locker room.
yeah. No, that's an awesome answer. Do you mind walking us through kind of your experience like during game time, especially like when we're talking about that Redwoods game and then especially that Denver game? Because I felt like the Redwoods game, people were kind of warming up as that first game of that Friday, but then that Saturday game was a riot. I kind of want to like as fans, we felt like we were trying to support the team on the field. I kind of want to know how the players were feeling during that game, especially with Schreiber going down earlier in that weekend as well.
Yeah, I felt like the first game was kind of a taste of, oh, like what is this? And then the second game was like, no, no, these are our boys. We're gonna ride with them. I felt like that first game was kind of a weird game. Like, yeah, it went to overtime, and I think it was better for the fan base that it went to overtime, even though it shouldn't have because they had seven guys on the field at the end of the game. But overall, though, I feel like, and I probably should have stopped that too, regardless. But overall, I felt like it was awesome to hear how loud and how, passionate, but also how understanding of the game most people were. And I felt like as that trickled into the second game, like it was like that's the juice that we needed to get over the hump and get to where we need to go. Because that next game, like the first game was a big one because we don't win now. We don't have a chance at a Western Conference championship in the first round bye, which we needed after the first game. So to be able to go do that, and then the second game, the fans could smell it and they were excited, and like that joy of having a passionate fan base from a player's perspective is awesome. Like you get people like I was looking around, I saw a lot of Dobson 45 jerseys, and that was pretty
Yeah,
cool to be able to see a lot of
100%.
people like that and like just support and want to be a part of this. And that's what it's all about, right? And I think that when you got people that are rowdy and they're loud and they love the game and they love the players that are playing and they love the product that's out there, it's easy to get energy from that. And I for myself personally, I could feel the energy. I could feel the energy kind of propel us through. The second game's always a tougher one. But that gives you, second legs in a sense. And I think that just even seeing the Congo line just roll around, like you take a step back and you look at everything. The Congo line was awesome. It was unbelievable. I felt like, like they don't have that in other places. Like that's a staple of the Utah lacrosse now. So it's going to stick around. And I think that just, we get whatever we want to make out of this, right? I feel like you guys are a major contributor to that for the fan base. And I think that, that just pays dividends to what it's going to hold for the future. I'm always thinking that we have to change venues or have to make it a little bit bigger now because we're gonna have so many more Archers fans,
We will.
especially you, Hudson.
He's coming around. but like to your point, Brett, like it was awesome to see. Like we had a guy we met, we were live broadcasting outside on the first day, and this guy comes up, never been to a lacrosse game before, but his buddy had kids that played, and so they came up. He does massive tailgates for the Utah Utes. And he's like, "Hey, can I set up a big old tailgate here tomorrow?" And we're like, "Yeah." Like it was bringing this community in that never seen it before. So every year it's just gonna get bigger and bigger. And thank you guys for being as good as you are, because we've always talked about too, like how fun it was to come and watch a team that's fighting for something. Because man, I'd hate to be a Redwoods fans this year. Like
Oh,
it's fun
every
to go
year.
to a game
Sorry.
and like it's fun to go to a game and watch your team that has a shot that they're winning and they're good. Man, it makes all the difference. It's easier to get behind a great team. And I will say, as much as this kid has been a Whipsnakes fan, like just even watching you like play, like was blown away. He's like, how did he stop that? That's incredible. Like for these kids to come and see you guys, it just propels them on to want to play at the next level. So it was so fun to see.
100%. And to your point, like I remember being in that position. This story goes a little way back, but Dyson Williams and I grew up playing together. And his dad played for the Toronto Nationals, and I got to go on the field and be a ball boy. Like that was my dream to go out there and see it. And I think that for, the kids in Utah to be able to experience that, although it's only once a weekend or once a year with 2 games, like it still means a lot. And I think that I have an understanding of that. I know a lot of guys in our locker room understand that. And I think that it's something that's really, really cool. And I think that that's what, the sport of lacrosse provides is opportunities where you might not get with an NBA or an NHL, but at the same time, you know that you're a role model for a lot of other people in the lacrosse community, and you're going to continue to do that and continue to represent, the Utah Archers the right way, and set the precedent for the next generation of lacrosse players as we head into the Olympics as well.
For sure.
Yeah. Hey, and Dauber, you mentioned the locker room. That's actually one thing I wanted to talk about because we as fans we get to watch the games and maybe some interviews and stuff, but we don't get to get that inside view of the culture and the coaches and the locker room. Me and James were able to go to the press conference at the Utah game. One thing that Vano mentioned is that the culture is just different at the Archers. And we've seen that. It's been really interesting. I mean, the past 2 years, we've had major players injured, and yet we find a way to plug in rookies who know their roles and are able to win and win big, win the championship. So I was curious. I wanted to know, like, maybe what kind of different cultures have you seen growing up from, being in high school to being at St. Bonnie, and then now you're at the Archers. Like, what makes the Archers different?
A lot of different things. I mean, compared to St. Bonaventure, not in a negative way to my boys, but we got some of the best players in the world in the Archers, and we might not have necessarily had that as much at St. Bonaventure, um, but there's no attestment to that. Like we had a great culture there when I was there with, we had guys that had built the program for 4 years that, when we were good our senior year, it was like, hey, this is our last go around at this, right? And I think that when you get to the Archers, Coach Bates and Coach Resch and Coach Cav have worked tirelessly with Tom and Ryan and Matt McMahon, who just recently retired, of building this locker room to a place that guys want to be able to come into and enjoy it and appreciate it and be welcomed with open arms. And I think that not only do they do their homework on who's a good lacrosse player, but they look at who they are as a leader and as a person to be around. And I think that, for our team, it's a tremendous honor to have a group of guys that are so willing to want to just be with each other every single weekend. Like we got one guy who's single on the team. Like we'll all go out and have team dinners and just like generally just sit down and just talk as a group and like enjoy being around each other. And that just pays homage to just, maybe we have a lot of Canadian guys that it's more of a box background type of thing. But I also think that we do a lot of exercise as a team about, having a good, good camaraderie. And, we run kangaroo court as a team. And I think that that's where there's a lot of laughs, and it also is a way to hold your teammates accountable. And it just it allows for everybody to kind of continue to enjoy the presence of being an archer. And I think that for a guy like Vano, like he comes in 2 weeks left before the end of the season, and it's like he hasn't skipped a beat for one. But I remember him talking to me about how I'd never met him before, but at training camp he felt like I knew him for 10 years. You know what I mean? So I felt like
Yeah.
those type of relationships are what a lot of guys strive for at the Archers, and I think that that's just something that it just starts with our locker room, and that's what guys want. Like I remember being a rookie, and I remember thinking like, okay, like you want to go somewhere where you know somebody, right?
Yep.
And if you don't necessarily know someone, but you're there and you feel like you know them for 10 years, then you're golden, right? And that gives you all the confidence in the world to show up and play. And when the whole team believes in you, especially for a guy like Vano and the position he was put in, it's awesome to see. And it puts a lot of confidence in his stick, right? And I think for himself, being a young guy, I remember once being in that position too, and just confidence goes a long way, and it's huge for you.
Yeah. It's amazing to see the culture you guys have. And like when Vano talked about it, it's just like he feeling so comfortable to come in play with you guys was awesome. So you guys play Utah, and Coach Bates is like, that was the start of our playoff run. Was like that Denver game, the energy. You guys go in your semifinal game, and I don't think. I mean, it's a game like from a goalie standpoint that will go down in the record books. I mean, it already is in the record books, but your performance was out of this world. I mean, we were sitting in a bar in Salt Lake, all the Arrowhead fan group, a bunch of kids from different high schools, parents, players, coaches, and we're just like, what is happening? How is this guy stopping everything that's being thrown? I mean, literally, it's like the definition of a brick wall. Like, walk us through that. I know, actually, I'm going to tee up Hudson here. He has a question for you about that game.
What was it like preparing for the semifinals?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, you have the bye week the week before, and I think for us the bye week's huge because you don't necessarily get to practice that often in pro lacrosse, and we got to be able to have two practices before that. So, and as I was going into it, I was getting kind of agitated, thinking like, well, I want to know who we're playing, but we don't know who we're playing until after that weekend. So, once we found out it was the chaos, it was like, you know what, all hands on deck. Like this narrative needs to stop because the narrative for the Archers for a long time was you get to the playoffs, but you can't beat the chaos. You can't beat playoff plays. And I felt like for myself, I wanted to make a point of that. I remember my rookie year losing them in the semis, and I felt like we had a really good chance of winning a championship that year, and we didn't. And I didn't want to have that feeling again. And I felt like for me, once we got in the game, I got, I think early on, I got like two or three saves early on in the game. And I felt like that allowed me to get in the zone early. And I think that though I got to give kudos to the guys in front of me, man. Like the Graham Hossick was unbelievable on Josh Byrne. I mean, Warren Jeffrey was great, and Mason Woodward did an awesome job covering Ross Scott. We had a guy like Kobe Barr stepping up the day of the game, flying in because Cam Wires rolled his ankle at practice the day before, so he had to, um, play that game. But he played awesome for us, and our D middies were unbelievable. Piper Bond, Connor Marr, Bo Pedersen, all those guys, and John Robbins played great too. And I felt like everybody on our defensive end did a great job, but more importantly, our offensive midfield got all the way back and took away a lot of transition. Oftentimes, those guys rely on transition a lot, and I felt like our offense did a good job taking it away. But when all those factors kind of, do a great job of, playing off each other, I think it makes my job easier. And I think that when the offense is scoring, it gives me confidence, and when I'm making saves, it gives them confidence. So I felt like it was the perfect storm of that kind of stuff. And I felt like overall, though, I felt like pretty in the zone. Like you don't want to think about it, be like, oh, I'm having a great game right now. Because that's when like things kind of go backwards for you. And I feel like when uh when things aren't going bad, you're like, how can I make this better? And it gets that much worse. So sometimes just not thinking about anything and just kind of being even keel goes a
Mhm.
long way. So keep my mindset like that. Try not to talk to anybody to try and jinx the shutout. And I felt like it was just a perfect combination storm. And I felt like following that though, going in the championship, like I knew there was going to be a lot of talk about it on social media, and it might just be something that I think about on my own. But like, when I was like, I'd have a really good game at the start of the year. The next game would be really bad. I was just like, I'm just going to delete all of social media just because I know what's going to come, and I know the championship's extremely important. I'm not going to get caught in this social media frenzy to think about how good I am. Like, I got to go improve something else again, you know?
Yeah. I love that. That's like a perfect segue into kind of next question I had. And again, thank you for being so great. Like it's so fun as a fan to be able to have these special moments to just sit behind and be like, holy crap, our goalie just did that. Insane. So you talked about the pressure coming into, feeling some of that pressure coming into the finals. Number one, you guys, I think everybody in the country, every lacrosse fan thought, well, the Atlas are going to be there in the finals. You guys are now facing the Whipsnakes. They talked to us about that kind of mentality change. And then obviously, um, you're going back as defending champions. Is there added pressure to be like, hey, there's an additional kind of pressure on us to be able to repeat here? and to come in and do it again. Like you guys are almost coming in as the favorites at that point. Talk us about that.
Yeah, I felt like, for us in the locker room, like we felt like there wasn't that much pressure. Like we were right where we wanted to be. Felt like we kind of flew under everybody's radar this year of kind of how things were not necessarily up and
Hmm.
down, but like, we weren't the
Yeah.
most flashiest team or we weren't beating the doors off of everybody and we had more losses this year than we did normally. But I felt as a whole though, I felt like our team dynamic as we went into there was awesome. Like you're watching that game and it was a really, really good game before our semifinals. And I think that I think that when the Whipsnakes beat the Atlas, it was kind of like wow, like that was a really crazy upset and a crazy game, and how like the Atlas were inches away from winning the game with that kind of crossbar
Hmm.
um, shot, and it was kind of crazy to me because it's like wow, like it really is a game of inches at all times, and I felt like for our team though, like that, there's no pressure, right? You fall back on your training and how you prepare, and I think for us, like we have a really good way of preparing, and I think for our team though, like we were ready to face whoever it was in the finals, and I felt like if it was the Atlas, it would have been a really good game. If it was the Whipsnakes, it was still gonna be a really good game. But I think once we got there and played them, I felt like it was more of a situation where it's like, hey, like they have what we want. We want to be able to be, they went the first team to go back to back to the PLL. We want to be in that same category as them. So I think that maybe added a little more motivation for us. But now that we got the opportunity to, win, now we get a chance to do something that no one else has done this year. And there's gonna be a bigger target on our back, I think, than there was last year. And I think that there's gonna be a lot more expectations put on us, but I still think the team to beat is the Atlas, and how it's gonna affect us next year might change a bit, but we'll find a way to work through it, and we want to make sure we peak at the right time in the postseason.
Yeah, for sure. It's I think as you talk about the Atlas being the team to beat, we had somebody call in and leave us a voicemail asking about the rookie picks. Probably 4 games into the season, being like, "Hey, what are we doing here?" And to see our rookies come along, it's like, well, we have a draft coming up. Like, you never know what we're going to add to that. And then it seems like Coach Bates just has a vision of what he wants in the team. Plug and play players. He's very uh, calculated about the types of personalities he wants. Like, has a vision of what he wants. Very, very clear. When you have that mentality, it almost seems like for you guys, right? The Atlas look good. They're flashy, but at the same time, there's a thing that the archers just seem to be able to do, which is just be able to consistently perform and, like I said, at the right time, right? So it's super interesting to see. I know. I think Toast, you got a question, right?
Yeah, yeah. One of the things I was curious about, Dauber, you're obviously you're a very passionate Canadian guy. Um, do you think it's a coincidence that the best team in the league the last 2 years is the team with the most Canadians?
No, not at all. Not at all. I think that two things. I'm just gonna go back to the first part about that James was saying. I think that our coaches do a really good job of drafting what our needs are and having a plan when they go in there, and a lot of that goes on to Brian Cavanaugh. Brian Cavanaugh spends a lot of hours watching lacrosse and understands what our team needs are and has a plan for if this guy's not gonna be here, let's go with this pick. If he's not there, let's go with this pick, and evaluating players, and he's one of the best at doing that. So there's no surprise year over year when we have all these good players. Like Jack Van Overbeek wasn't even a draft pick. He was a free agent pickup for us. Like he's able to find guys who can play ball, and I think that that's huge. But um, yeah, like I think that going back to that though, like it's just crazy as a whole where we're kind of at now. You know what I mean? I think that like we got a lot of Canadians. It is what it is. I mean, maybe that's a culture thing, right? It helps with our culture, helps with going through things, but I do think we got our fair share of Americans that help us out a ton and are very key pieces to this team. And I think that it doesn't matter where you come from. If you can play lacrosse and you're a locker room guy, like you'll probably end up on the Archers at some point. So, and I think that that's what's important about this league is, if you're not able to be around each other every day, but you still have that camaraderie, like you've seen each other every day, then it's going to pay dividends.
And congrats to your boys on the World Championship box series just recently.
Yeah, it was a good championship for them. It was nice to see Canada win. And, obviously, the U.S. is getting closer to it, but they're not just there yet.
Let's all be honest. It's Great Britain's coming up. That's really what it's going to be. Hey, don't this guy? In a few years, Team GB all the way. So
Exactly. That's what it's all about. And maybe I'll see him at the Olympics. You never
yeah, there
know.
you go. All Commonwealth final. I like it. Um,
Exactly.
uh, two-time MVP, man, like back to back, only player to ever do it. What does it mean to you when you hear your name called there? Like, what does that mean?
That's awesome. I mean, the championship MVP bonus is great, and I can't complain about that. But um, overall, though, like I think that yeah, like I get to stand up there and accept that trophy the last 2 years. But I think that lacrosse is a team sport, and I think that I'm not able to do that without the help of my teammates. I'm not able to be there without Graham Hossick, without Warren Jeffrey, without Mason Woodward. Like those guys locked down the attack, man. And then I originally said to a couple of people in my circle that it was gonna be one in the midfield, and our rope unit with JR and Wires did a great job, and our short stick D-middies did an awesome job on ball. So those guys don't necessarily get the recognition as they should. And I'm up there, holding the award, and it's great. But at the end of the day, like it's a team thing, right? And I felt like as a whole, like, we're right where we want to be right now, champs again. And like doesn't matter who gets the fucking MVP every year. Like if we win, we win, and that's what's most important. And I think that when you have an egoless team like that, it's huge for us. And it's like, yeah, we won and, we're a week out, but we're already thinking about next year and what we can do to maybe get another one. And I think that that's very important.
Yeah. Perfect segue again. You're like on it today. Um, Championship's gone, right? The season's done. What does off season look like for you? And looking forward to the draft, like what are you guys looking and saying, hey, this is where we could maybe need some support?
Yeah, so for me, off season's a little different than some other people. Like I play in the National Lacrosse League, which is the indoor league. So my training camp starts in November. And so I'm gonna be shifting gears to that, which for me is nice because you're able to um one still play lacrosse but change your focus in a sense, if that makes sense. Like it's two different
Yeah.
games. It allows you to regroup on one, and then when it's like, all right, like I'm missing this one, I can go back to it later on once the season's done. But I also think that moving into the draft for next season, coaches got it's a good problem to have and a bad problem to have. It's like, well, what are our holes? Where do we evaluate? Well, I felt like we didn't really have that many holes, and it's like, well, who do we need to, pick up and put in our lineup to help us out? But I think we got a lot of depth, and maybe this is a year we trade away more draft picks because we're set with
Mhm.
our roster. It'll just depend on free agency and who's back and who's not back, and if guys get hurt in the indoor season, if they don't, and how things go in the champ series. So I think for us as a team, it's not going to necessarily matter who's in the lineup. It's going to be a matter about, hey, let's get the job done and let's do it for the guy next to us, and let's make sure that we continue to represent Utah loud and proud.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. Like you guys representing us loud and proud is awesome, but like we want to make sure we're there for you guys as fans as well. Like, um, I don't think you're gonna find a bigger fan base than you have anywhere else in the world for a lacrosse team than the Utah Archers right now. So
Well,
it's
Exactly.
you've already given us more professional wins than any other team in history. So you
We'll
yeah,
guys are
take
already
it.
legends.
We'll take it.
exactly. It's just like all you Jazz fans come watch lacrosse, and the hockey team's got a big thing to live up to. They got to go in a championship to keep up with you guys. So
Exactly. Exactly. And I keep pounding the people at the PLL about trying to do a ceremonial face off. Maybe one day I'll get my day in the sun out there.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I'm just like Spencer Cox, governor. Like, when are we doing the parade?
Well, that's what I asked. I was like, are we doing a parade? Is this a thing? Like, I would hope it would be a parade, but maybe next year we'll have to get a parade then.
Hey, you
They,
guys
they
fly
can't they
in.
can't deny three in a row. They can't deny three in a
Exactly.
row.
Look, if you guys fly in, I'll pull my truck out. We'll throw you guys in the back of the truck and parade around. It'll be great. So
Exactly.
we'll make it
Exactly.
happen. But no, like seriously, like I relish the day that we can do a parade with you guys. Like it's deserved. Like Tosi said, we got two championships. Like that's two more than anybody has got here, right? And it's like just amazing what you guys did this year. So congrats on a great season. Um, thank you for being on the show again. Like we're super grateful for you being on preseason and postseason. Like and just an
Legend.
incredible performance. Like I said, you're in the record books forever. Those games will go down in history. We talked about some of the moments of the season, but that first Utah homecoming, I think, will be one for forever. And seeing your game in the semifinals, back to back championship MVPs, like amazing season, Brett. Like just again, congratulations on everything achieved this season.
James, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure being on here and talking ball with you guys.
Oh, you're always welcome back, man. We'll
Appreciate you,
have you on
man.
any time. We'll get you on as a regular. So,
Sounds good. I'll have to be up punctual next time and be on time.
oh, you're good. Maybe
No
next time
sweat.
Next time Hudson will be wearing one of your jerseys, so we'll be
We'd
good.
hope. We'd hope, eh? But you never know with
Yep.
him.
Hudson, are we an Archers fan yet?
Yes.
All right,
Yeah,
we did it.
baby.
Mission
Yeah,
accomplished.
baby.
All
Boy,
right.
good job, Hudson.
Dobson jersey in the stocking from Santa for Christmas. So that's what's gonna happen. So
We love that.
all right.
Maybe we'll have to get him one of the new PLL cards too.
Yeah,
Oh,
let's
yes,
make that
sir.
happen. That'd be awesome. So
Exactly.
Brett, again, thank you, man. Appreciate you being on. And with that, we'll wrap this up. Um, Great first episode for season 2. Number's still the same. It's in our bio. If you want to give us a call or a text, feel free to send those in. We'll have some more episodes here in the off season and leading up to the championship series and getting ready for next year. So with that, above all else, win.
Let's
Thank you
go.
guys. All right.
Take care.
This podcast is not affiliated with the Premier Lacrosse League or Archers Lacrosse Club. This is an independent, fan-run podcast.